Welcome to Tabernacle Talk. Tabernacle Talk is a Bible study podcast brought from Tabernacle Baptist Church in Essex, Maryland. I'm your host, Brian Self. We hope this podcast encourages you to know Christ, grow in His Word, and show His love to others. Let's dive right in. Welcome back to Tabernacle Talk. Today we are in Psalm 136, and I absolutely love this psalm. This is one of my favorites. If you've been at Tabernacle over the last 2.5 years, I've read through this psalm with you guys at the very least at the last Pine Praise service that we did back in November. It is just a wonderful joy, and part of the fun of Psalm 136 is that it's a call and response. So I'm trying to think of a good call and response song that's maybe just more like regular that you might hear out and about. I feel like there's a baseball song and someone's going to be like, Brian, how in the world don't you know the name of this song? Listen, I haven't been to that many ball games, but you get the dun, 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 hey, dun, 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 dun. I bet I'm going to get copyright struck for that. For that melody. But there's that song where there's the music portion and then everyone kind of does the hey portion of it, and that's kind of the picture that you get from this particular psalm, that there's an initial person that is saying or singing these truths about God, and then there's the response, likely from either a choir or from just the entire congregation, that they would respond to these statements about God or these remembrances of what God has done by saying His faithful love endures forever. And here over and over and over again within this psalm, I'm going to count how many times it does it. 26 times in this psalm, we will read or hear the phrase, it is God's faithful, loyal, steadfast covenant love. One of the first translators of scripture into the English language, William Tyndale, he actually invented a whole new word in English to try and describe this Hebrew word. And he invented the word loving kindness. And so you'll see that pop up in the King James Version. I think it might even be in some modern translations that are a little more like the New American Standard Bible. You'll find it in the New King James Version. But loving kindness was the word that was used. It was both, there is relationship and there is active love as a result of that relationship. I believe it might be either the New English Translation or the English Standard Version that call it either loyal love or like covenant love, something like that. And I really enjoy that phrasing. I think communicates well what this word means over and over and over again throughout the psalm. So let's read. You know now what that phrase is. It's the fact that God has a relationship with His people by covenant. He has bound Himself to us, and certainly us as people of God. That takes place in what Christ accomplished for us. And on the cross, our redemption was purchased. And so as a result of that, God has a covenant relationship with us. And because of that relationship, He is going to act like He loves us because He has promised to love us. So let's read through, and I'm super excited. Give thanks to Yahweh, for He is good. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to the God of gods, the Elohim of Elohim. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to the Lord of lords. His faithful love endures forever. He alone does great wonders. His faithful love endures forever. He made the heavens skillfully. His faithful love endures forever. He spread the land on the waters. His faithful love endures forever. He made the great lights. His faithful love endures forever. The sun to rule by day. His faithful love endures forever. The moon and stars to rule by night. His faithful love endures forever. He struck the firstborn of the Egyptians. His faithful love endures forever, and brought Israel out from among them. His faithful love endures forever. With a strong hand and outstretched arm, his faithful love endures forever. He divided the Red Sea. His faithful love endures forever, and led Israel through. His faithful love endures forever, but hurled Pharaoh and his army into the Red Sea. His faithful love endures forever. He led his people in the wilderness. His faithful love endures forever. He struck down great kings. His faithful love endures forever. And slaughtered famous kings. His faithful love endures forever. Sihon, king of the Amorites. His faithful love endures forever. And Og, king of Bashan. His faithful love endures forever. And gave their land as an inheritance. His faithful love endures forever. An inheritance to Israel, his servant. His faithful love endures forever. He remembered us in our humiliation. His faithful love endures forever. And rescued us from our foes. His faithful love endures forever. He gives food to every creature. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to the God of heaven. His faithful love endures forever. Man, what a cool portion of scripture. I am sure you're like, Brian, I never want to hear you say that one phrase again. It's just too many times. The constant reminder to us is that in our hard times, in our questions about our world and ultimate reality, when it comes to our past, when it comes to our future, when it comes to our redemption, it is all centered on the person of who God is and what his character accomplishes. So let's walk through this psalm and see what particular aspects this psalm has for us. First, we're going to look at verses 1 through 3. So these are the 3 give thanks to God, and what's the why of that? So number 1, he says, give thanks to Yahweh, for he is good. And I'm going to assume that this is the word tov. That is correct. So we give thanks to Yahweh, this personal God, the God who told us his own name. He's not just generic G-O-D. He is personally Yahweh, Jehovah. He is the great I am. He is the one who is in need of nothing and yet desires a relationship with you and I. And so let's give thanks to him. Why would we give thanks? Because he is the very definition of goodness. Something cannot be good that is unlike God. And God gives us the standard for what goodness is. He lets us know how we ought to treat each other, how we ought to interact with a broken and a fallen world. God is there for us in all of it. And because of his consistent goodness, because of his personal relationship with us, let's give thanks to him. Let us consistently be glad and rejoice in what the Lord has done and is doing and what he will do. And he does it all because of his faithful love, because he has a relationship and he's going to act in accordance with that relationship. Verse number 2, give thanks to the God of gods. This is the Elohim of Elohim. God is not the only spiritual being. We all know that. There are also what we would normally term the angels and the demons. We would think of Satan and Michael and Gabriel. And as we look at all of the spiritual beings, though they have incredible power and might, though they can make themselves appear in various forms, you can think about the serpent, the snake, the dragon that tempted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You can think about even the silent behind the scenes moving where Satan can even prompt Peter to tempt Jesus into rejecting the cross. As we think about the fact that Paul tells us that Satan himself appears as an angel of light, as a messenger of light. As we think about the angel of death, both in the story of the Exodus and in the story where the children of Israel are surrounded at Jerusalem by the Assyrian army, and God delivers through having the death angel go in and defeat the army so that many of the Assyrians flee away, even hearing about an assault that was happening in Assyria at that time. And we can read about that both in, I believe it's Second Kings, as well as in some like classic Assyrian history. We've found things that talk about the siege of Jerusalem, the damage that they did to the surrounding towns, but did not do to Jerusalem itself, and how they had to come back, and how the king of that time perished in the ensuing fight that took place much closer to home. So you can go, wow, the angels are, the other spiritual beings are so powerful. They can be so tricky. We don't even know that we are, if you will, sometimes pawns in this game, that we just have a thought and we think, oh yeah, I should say this, or this is a good thought for me to adopt into my life, when it can really be the temptation of Satan, or we encounter a difficulty in our life and we might not realize that there is demonic oppression in that, or we might not recognize that we have angelic help behind the scenes. It's quote unquote the unseen realm. It's the spiritual realm that we can't see. And so we could be really scared of the other spiritual beings if it were not for the fact that our God is the chief spiritual being. He is the one to whom no one else compares. He is the one completely unlike any other. He is the uncreated one. He is a spiritual being above all other spiritual beings. And so we ought to give him thanks for his greatness. Verse number 3, give thanks to the Lord of Lords. This is, if I know correctly, that's Adonai. He's the Adonai of Adonim. He is the great master. He is the great Lord, the one that owns it all and is in charge of everything. And even as we have, worldly people that are temporarily in charge of some things, you can look at the president of the United States, and he has some charge over some different things. Of Maryland, that he governs what happens in our state for this time. God is the one who is ultimately in charge, and he is the one who declares the end from the beginning. And so we ought to give thanks to him that he is ultimately in charge, and so we can trust him. Verse number 4 says, he alone does great wonders. There is no one that is like our God in what he has accomplished. You can look at all the annals of church, all the annals of world history, and you will never read about anyone doing the kinds of things that Jesus did. People would do things perhaps in legend on a much greater scale, and they would defeat Medusa, or they would defeat the Cyclops or the Minotaur. Jesus came and he raised children from the dead. He came, and lepers, outcasts of society, he made them clean so that they could return and be with their families. Our God is so much cooler than any other God. He is the one who alone does great wonders. That God doesn't have to have the help of angels. God doesn't have to have the help of mankind in order to accomplish his deeds and his work. When it came to our salvation, Jesus did it, and Jesus alone did it. It wasn't that Jesus needed the help of Peter, or Jesus didn't need the help of even Moses or great holy men like Elijah or someone else. No, Jesus alone, our God alone, does great wonders, and he does it because of his love. He doesn't do it to be a show-off, though he could show off and we could be amazed at the great wonder-working God, but because of his love, God does wonders. Verse number 5, he made the heavens skillfully. That is, all of the skies above, everywhere where the spiritual realm is, and as much as we could ever see with our eyes or look through telescopes to behold, God has made it skillfully. And I'm so glad for that. Even the last, 200, 250 years of science have shown us how finely tuned our universe is, so that for our Earth's like tilt and axis and distance from the sun to be adjusted by even a few degrees would mean that life would be completely inhospitable, or life would be incapable of existing on planet Earth. And as we look at all of our universe, we can see that it is greatly, wonderfully, skillfully made. And God made the heavens skillfully because of his covenant love for us. Think about that God made the stars and the sun and the moon and the asteroids and the meteors and the comets. He made it because of his love for you. Are you enjoying the works of God's hands? Do you look up into the sky, or do you even look at, pictures or videos on your phone of what God has created in the heavens? And are you thankful to him? Are you reminded of the fact that just as he made those things with incredible specificity, he made you, and he loves you, and he created you intentionally so that you would know and experience his love in Christ Jesus forever? What an amazing thought. Verse number 6, he spread the land on the waters. His faithful love endures forever. That he didn't have to make the dry land. He could have just had there be sea on the earth, and he would have been a powerful God, having made all of that. But he made the land so that we could be on the land, so that we would have a place to live, because he loves us. And that love is an everlasting, a forever enduring love. Verse number 7, he made the great lights. His faithful love endures forever. This would be not just like sun, moon, and stars, though certainly that would be the main thing in mind here. There was, especially in the ancient Near East, for a very long time, always a connection between the heavenly bodies, would be, an older phrase that people would use, the heavenly bodies and spiritual beings, that there was assumed to be a connection. These things are moving. Well, what moves? Living things move, and especially as they move orderly, and you can always know where it's going. And so that was the assumption that was always made. So here are these great lights. It is, yes, the sun, moon, and stars, but it's also the angelic host that every single day are able to give us light in the morning and light at night, that we're able to tell the seasons and the months and the years by these luminaries. And so God is the one that made all of this to take place. God created, yes, our solar system, and he created all of the stars, but he also created the spiritual beings, and he commands them. They are not his rivals. Instead, he is their Lord and God and Master. Verse number 8. So continuing the thought, he made the great lights, the sun to rule by day. And he made the sun so that we would experience his love every single day. You can think of in Lamentations, where Jeremiah writes that God's mercies are new every morning. And every morning that comes, we are reminded of the fact that God has mercy towards us, that he doesn't view us with how can I beat them down. His desire is that we would experience and share with others his faithful love. The sun is a reminder of the consistent, loyal, covenant, steadfast love of God to you. Verse number 9, the moon and stars to rule by night. Though we don't as often utilize the moon and stars now. Now we have our, street lights, and we have our, lights on our cars and everything to be able to see at night, or within a house. You've got light bulbs and TVs and 1,000 other things. But what a joy that God created the moon and stars to remind us of his love for us, of his consistency and his faithfulness. And even as we look at the Old Testament and Exodus in particular, as God sets up the various times of year that Israel would celebrate the various feasts and festivals, as every single year, which you determine by the moving of these heavenly bodies, that was linked with freedom and the year of Jubilee and every seventh kind of Sabbath year, all of that was meant to and bless mankind, to help remind them of who was in charge of of who their calendar days and years belonged to. And even every 7 days, that rotation of the sun and moon and stars, every 7 days, they were reminded God rested on the seventh day. And so we can rest as well. Then in verses 10 through 22 is dealing with the Exodus and the people's wandering in the wilderness for 40 years as a result of their sin and refusal to follow God's instructions. That God was with them in all sorts of situations. I have run out of time, so I'll summarize these portions. I think there's a couple other episodes like Psalm 107 and some others that you can look at that deal with this thought. But God exacting vengeance, justice on Egypt for the crimes they had committed against Israel in the sight of a holy God was viewed as God's covenant love to Israel. That just as the Egyptians had killed all of their goal was to kill all of the baby boys of Israel, when God, in divine justice, with warning and with a way out of it, when he struck the firstborn of the Egyptians, it was an act of justice. It was still, even in his justice, there was an act of love. There was a way of escape for anyone that would take it. God brought Israel out from among the Egyptians, something that they didn't think would be able to happen. It says that he did this with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. I love the song Forever by Chris Tomlin that takes a lot of these lines just straight from Psalm 136 and sings that. I've linked that in the show notes. But I love that God is a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Like he is fighting for his people because he loves them. He divides the Red Sea. He leads Israel through. But when Pharaoh and his army tried to follow to kill the children of Israel, then he hurled them into the Red Sea, and that was justice for the evil that had been committed by the Egyptians, by Pharaoh, and by his government over the course of generations. That there was that justice that was done towards them. And God, even through his people's failing, he led them in the wilderness. And when kings of the Amorites and the nation of Bashan, as they tried to attack Israel, God gave victory to this wandering wilderness people who were not trained warriors. They were slaves. And yet God saved their lives again and again, and even gave the land of those that had attacked the Israelites, gave them their land as an inheritance as well. And then the psalm ends with verses 23 through 26. He remembered us in our humiliation and rescued us from our foes. You can think of the time of the judges and all of the things that happened there. This could also have in mind as well the exile to Babylon or to Assyria for the northern kingdom of Israel, that God remembered his people and he brought them back again. And then verses 25 and 26 and he gives food to every creature. Anyone that eats anything that is from the hand of God. And verse 26, give thanks to the God of heaven. His faithful love endures forever. For everything that God is, for all the wonders that he has accomplished, for what he has done in our past, for what he will do in our future, for what he gives us daily in our food right now, he ought to be given thanks. Thank you for tuning in today. Hope that you have a wonderful day.